Welcome to Just Asia, AHRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Security forces open fire on hungry farmers in the Philippines. Indonesian security forces burn homes over land dispute. Supreme Court of Sri Lanka orders police to pay compensation to torture victims. Pakistani journalist remains missing. Brother commits suicide. Rights groups urge Thailand to revoke order granting sweeping power to military. Manual scavenging takes 4 lives in India. Urgent appeals from Pakistan, Indonesia, and India. Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. I am Julia Roblondo. This week's episode begins with a deadly dispersal of protesting farmers in Kidapawan City, Philippines. Suffering from hunger and unable to plant their crops due to the El Nino drought, the farmers organized a protest blockading the main highway connecting North Cotabato and Davao City on March 29. On April 1st, police and military personnel opened fire on the unarmed farmers, killing 3 and injuring 116. 2 others were tortured, while 89 remain missing. The farmers were seeking rice and other subsidies and the release of the government emergency funds. While the government set up a fund of $5.6 billion after declaring a state of emergency in North Cotabato province, the local government does not want to use the money to help the starving farmers. To express support and condemn the blatant violation of rights of the Filipino farmers, 17 organizations joined a protest at the Philippines Consulate, Hong Kong. Just Asia covered the protest.
Pagkain hindi bala! Pagkain hindi bala! Pagkain hindi bala! Pagkain hindi bala! Hustisya hindi bala! Hustisya hindi bala! Dispersal of the Filipino farmers who were protesting and asking for food in the Philippines because of the prolonged drought. But instead, the Philippine National Police and the Philippine government opened fire at them during the protest action. During this violent dispersal, 3 of our farmers were killed and dozens other got injured. And there are about 100 people more who are still missing. And we are here to strongly condemn this violation, a blatant violation of the rights of the Filipino people to protest and to peacefully assemble, and also the right of the Filipinos to life and to food and to decent living, and also to condemn the government's failure to address the demands of our farmers.
The Filipino regime give bullets instead of food. So I think it deserves a full investigation. Those who are responsible for the carnage, for the massacre, should be arrested. They should be on trial. The farmers grow the food, and the rich take most of it. Still then, after the natural disaster, the Filipino government, due to the corruption, cannot deliver the necessary help. It's a shame. When the people try to voice out their anger, what did they get? Bullets. Well, I deeply feel for the people who were killed, since there were massacres in China in 1989 as well.
We have many questions for the Philippine government. Why did you give the farmers and indigenous people bullets and not food? The government has admitted there's a drought in Mindanao. The government has set aside money for the peasants and the indigenous people to feed them, to survive the drought. Where is the food? Where is the money? When the farmers and indigenous people ask for the food that the government has promised them, the government has given them bullets. Why? Where is the money? We need answers. The farmers need justice. We're here to also stand with the farmers in the Methodist Church. There is no reason there should be 200 police and soldiers surrounding a church because there's poor peasants inside the church. We demand that the police and the military remove themselves from around the church and let the farmers and indigenous people go. Food, not bullets.
Food, not bullets.
Food, not bullets.
Food, not bullets.
Where's the money?
Where's the money?
Where's the money?
Where's the money?
Where's the food?
Where's the food?
Give the peasants food.
Give the peasants food.
Justice for Philippine farmers.
Justice for the Philippine farmers.
Give the farmers food.
Give the farmers food.
The farmers are hungry.
The farmers are hungry.
Give the farmers food.
Give the farmers food.
Clashes between security forces and farmers have occurred in Indonesia as well, with 83 houses burned down on March 31st in Sribhawono village, East Lampung, Regency. Approximately 40 local farmers were arrested, and more than 10 farmers are still being detained. The violence is a result of a land dispute. Security forces claim the land belongs to the state, whereas the residents state the land was granted to them by the government after Indonesia's independence from the Dutch colonial rule. Ideally, land disputes should be solved by the National Land Agency rather than security forces, therein avoiding such violence and brutality. Just Asia speaks to Mr. Edi Arsadad, a local community leader, for more information.
Begini, terhadap kejadian kemarin itu kami sangat menyayangkan karena pihak kepolisian sepertinya tidak koordinasi dengan pihak-pihak terkait seperti mereka yang mempunyai hak di situ atau dengan para petani atau penggarap yang ada di situ. Jadi tidak ada peringatan atau tidak ada peringatan maupun apapun dari pihak kepolisian, tiba-tiba polisi sudah langsung melakukan pembakaran dan merobohkan bangunan-bangunan milik warga, dan ini sangat disayangkan. Untuk itu kami sih berharap pihak-pihak terkait seperti Komnas HAM atau dan yang lain seperti kepolisian yang dari Mabes bisa mengusut kasus ini, karena sepertinya ini ada suatu tindakan kesalahan kewenangan yang dilakukan oleh pihak Polres Lampung Timur yang saat itu langsung terjun dan Kapolresnya sendiri sebenarnya yang terjun saat itu.
Moving to Sri Lanka, the country's Supreme Court recently ordered the police to pay compensation to torture victims in 2 separate cases. In the case of DG Wijotmana, a torture victim from Kandy, the Supreme Court found the officer in charge of the Dikwela police station and 7 other police officers guilty of illegal arrest, illegal detention, and the use of torture. The police officers were ordered to pay 120,000 rupees as compensation and 30,000 rupees as legal costs to the victim. In a separate case filed by torture victim Dinesh Priyanka Pereira, the Supreme Court found that several police officers of the Panadura North Police Station were guilty of causing the victim physical and psychological torture. The court further stated that torture is not confined to physical violence, but includes causing pain to the mind as well. The police officers were thus ordered to pay a sum of 85,000 rupees as compensation and costs to the victim. In Pakistan, the brother of a missing journalist committed suicide on March 24th after losing hope of finding his sister. 24-year-old Zinat Shahzadi disappeared on 19 August 2015 on her way to work. Ms. Shahzadi worked for the Daily Naikabar and the Metro News television channel. Since then, her whereabouts are unknown. Shahzadi was pursuing the safe recovery of a young Indian engineer, Mr. Hamid Ansari, who was arrested by Pakistani intelligence officials in November 2012 and was thereafter missing. Shahzadi was to present herself to the Commission of Inquiry on Enforced Disappearances regarding Ansari's case on 24 August 2015, but before she could do so, she herself was disappeared. After sustained efforts by civil society, Ansari was surfaced from military custody 3.5 years after his initial arrest, and a military court has recently sentenced him to 3 years imprisonment for entering Pakistan illegally. There is still no news of Shahzadi, however, leaving her family in despair. In Thailand, meanwhile, a coalition of rights groups urged the government to immediately revoke an order conferring sweeping powers to the military in contravention of human rights and the rule of law. Issued on March 29th, Order 13/2016 provides appointed officers with wide-ranging powers to prevent and suppress 27 categories of crimes including against public peace, liberty, and reputation and human trafficking. According to the coalition, implementation of the order will almost certainly lead to violations of Thailand's international human rights obligations and the rule of law. The order authorizes the detention of persons for up to 7 days in unrecognized places and without judicial oversight, increasing the risk of abuses such as torture and enforced disappearance. Furthermore, any actions taken under the order are not subject to judicial review. In India, 4 men died of asphyxiation in a clogged manhole in Dodbalapur near Bangalore on April 6th. 2 of the men were manual scavengers and the other 2 were passers-by who tried to save them. Manual scavenging is the act of cleaning excrement from gutters and sewers, dry toilets, and open drains. Although the act of manual scavenging is legally prohibited, the practice continues unabated due to India's caste system, the absence of modern sanitation techniques, and the persisting practice of open defecation. Manual scavengers are usually from the lower castes and are forced to work in this area, facing threats and abuse if they try to leave. People routinely die in manholes due to the lack of safety equipment, such as masks to protect them from the noxious gases. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features 3 stories. A Pakistani-born Ahmadi was stabbed to death in Glasgow, Scotland by a Pakistani Muslim. The Ahmadi man was brutally stabbed 30 times with a kitchen knife and had his head stamped on. This follows threats from militants in Pakistan for Ahmadi Muslims to abandon their religious activities or face attack in any part of the world. In Indonesia, the Civil Service Police Unit launched a brutal attack on a public lawyer, Mr. Asrul Aziz Sigalingging, and 7 students of the University of Andalus in Padang, West Sumatra. In Kerala, India, in 2 separate incidents, 2 men were detained and tortured by the same police officer and his constable. One of them had a speech defect and was detained without charge and made to pay a fine. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.